fellow paranormalers, and welcome to this vlog. As you can probably see, I'm in a different vehicle, but yeah, it's slightly different. Anyway, travelling again. Subject today, I read a very interesting article which resonates very well with not only what I believe in, but what a lot of paranormalers believe about things that people do in their investigations, which I've always questioned. I think it's interesting and it's important to an extent for a paranormal investigator, especially if you're an investigator and you do a lot of research, to for part of your thinking process to be a debunker, to be a skeptic of things that happen, and things that you observe, and things that you see, and things that you hear, to verify, you know, within yourself, within your own belief system, within your own analysis and such like of, you know, what could and couldn't be classed as being paranormal. And I do think it's about time. You know, I've gone on about this, and I've been criticised for my you know, for what I've said about things like, you know, orbs, photographs, UFOs, so-called UFO sightings, the whole torch. And this is what's triggered is the maglite torch crap. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is absolute crap. Why do I go on about these things? Because I do photography professionally as one of my roles. I'm also you know, I have a background in IT, so I know about technology and the way components heat up and cool down and react differently and such like. And I understand a lot about physics. You know, these are all knowledge bases that I have and experience that I have that I bring with me when I go on to an investigation. And I think it's important to do that. Now, I know not everybody has those skills. And, you know, there are people who don't have analytical skills, and there are people who wish to believe things which to the rest of us, maybe, or to a certain group of people, quite blatantly are wrong, you know, are you know, just wrong. So what I've read recently is somebody did a very in-depth article about the whole torch thing, you know, asking a torch to go on and claiming that it's paranormal because you ask questions and the torch goes on and off and all of these other things. And I mean, it's just a farce. I'm sorry. If this is going to offend people, it's going to offend people, like my recent video about orbs, and I did another article about, you know, I talked about UFO sightings and photographs and all of these things. You know, the torch thing, it quite clearly, there is a physiological explanation as to why this thing, you know, why this occurs. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with paranormal. I'm sorry, but they are never ever going to switch a torch on and off. And I've actually seen people, okay, this is what fascinates me. And again, I think, you know, I would encourage people to be really, take a step back and learn how to be analytical of things. Take a step back into what we call the third person position and observe what is really going on with yourself and whatever other, you know, third party happens to be going on. And there are other techniques that you can do from a psychological point of view, you know, so that you can separate your separate your influence, your own mind and influence into your observations. But You know, I've actually seen people who are so-called producing evidence of paranormal, where they're using this torch technique. Okay, there's one person in particular that I follow on YouTube, and I mean, it's just so blatant. It's really, really blatant abuse and what I would call conning of people on their YouTube channel, because when they don't get an answer straight away, they then go and pick the torch up and tap it. You know, they're tapping the torch and they're holding the torch to warm it up to get that response, you know, so that they get this flicking on, flicking off kind of response. And I just think it's awful. I really do. I think it's atrocious that someone can blatantly do it. But in my view, they are preying on people's ignorance about things, because it looks fascinating. You know, they ask a question and the torch goes on and off, and you know. And something else that I've been observing as well, and I'm beginning to feel like I'm becoming part of a group that is kind of debunking a lot of this stuff and trying to make people aware of stuff that's going on that people keep calling paranormal, and it's got nothing to do with paranormal. Okay, or very rarely, let's say 90% of the time, most of the stuff that people keep saying is paranormal isn't paranormal at all. You know, and we have to be realistic. But, and I'll say it again, the whole paranormal thing is generating money for a lot of people, and it's entertaining. And you know, I'll get off my soapbox in a minute, but you know, this is where it's happening now. It's all becoming an entertaining genre of something, you know. And it's a shame. It is a real shame that it's turning into this. Something else, EMF meters. Oh my goodness. You know, I could start going on and on and on about these things as well. And I saw, again, a very interesting paranormaler who basically did a couple of videos about EMF meters and reasons why. Not just one person, but several people are saying this. You know, why do we use EMF meters in the paranormal? Well, not for the reasons that people seem to think. You know, a bit like, why do we use a torch? You know, we use a torch in the paranormal world to actually have a look to see where we're going, to make sure we don't harm ourselves. We don't use torches to communicate with spirits. And the same for EMF meters. We use EMF meters to try and debunk interference. Try and figure out and help whoever we're investigating for, to try and help them understand that there could be another reason why things are happening, you know. And if there's large amounts of EMF in a particular room or a corner of a room, or you know, whatever, it's being able to help identify that that's what's happening from a physiological point of view, rather than it being paranormal. And again, I don't really believe that, you know, a K2 meter can be used to communicate, you know, communicate with spirits. I mean, I don't know. maybe 10% of the time there may be some real logical reason that they could, but I think 90% of the time they're not, and I think it's interference. EMF comes from so many different sources, and again, for anyone that doesn't really understand the technology behind EMF and interference of that level, will not really understand that EMF can come from a huge amount of different sources, and the likelihood of it being a spirit is probably so remote, you know, that you can't really credit that in your investigations, you know. So anyway, I just thought it was really, really interesting. I guess in a way this has turned into a little bit of a rant, but I don't think so. I think it's important for people to have an analytical mind. Don't disbelieve everything, but have an analytical mind about, you know, what you're seeing and possibly what you're doing yourself. You know, do you really honestly believe that what you're seeing and hearing is paranormal, or could there be something else? Once you've identified that it's potentially something else, and you've got maybe proof that it is something else, then you could move on in your investigations and become, you know, even more certain that things are really happening, or things are, you know, that things that you are seeing are really from a paranormal, you know, aspect. And go from there, really. That's my advice. You know, I just wish that there were more people doing it, rather than it being ego driven and emotional driven. You know, it became a bit more, in a way, scientific. You know, take on the qualities of a scientist. A scientist, you know, uses their skill set and their ability to cut out what is not required, or what is not real, to actually focus on what the goal is. You know, what it is that is real, the bit, you know, from paranormal point of view, the bit that is actually paranormal, and kind of go from there, really. Then you've got a good basis on which to do your investigations. Anyway, I shall stop rambling. Thank you very much for watching if you got this far, and I shall see you again in another video.